Hi, welcome to Good Mom, Bad Mom. This is Danielle, aka the Bad Mom.
And this is Jennifer, aka the Good Mom.
Today we're talking about, is gentle parenting realistic?
As we speak, I'm Googling like the definition because
Well,
I want to be real clear if I do it or not.
so gentle parenting, some swear by it. Some say it's an unrealistic trend, but what does it actually mean? And is it possible in today's world?
So gentle parenting is parenting style that emphasizes empathy, respect, and understanding. It's also known as collaborative parenting, conscious parenting, or mindful parenting.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And honestly, this is my only caveat to that. It sounds very much like you want to be your kid's friend.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think
I've kind of been, and I've jokingly said this, I feel like gentle parenting is for gentle children.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think the trendiness of gentle parenting, like gentle parenting as the definition that you just went over. And then I think that there's gentle parenting that is trendy gentle parenting, which is not something that I can relate to. And I think that it goes more towards being your kid's friend.
Yeah.
Because I think that I do more gentle parenting than
We probably all do more than we realize.
yeah, I think I do more so than my co-parent.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, but I think too, maybe it's for me, I think that's more of a female thing.
I was just about to say that. I was like, both of our, like your ex-spouse and my spouse were also very like military police. Like they were told when to have emotions, told when to feel, told
Right.
when to think, told and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And so it's very hard, especially because both of them are still active in that, to leave that
Yeah.
and then be like, just rub some dirt in it. And you're like, hold up, let's talk about our,
Yeah. Like, wait a second.
maybe we should really look into this a little more.
Yeah, so they can understand kind of instead of just like covering, put some
Yeah,
dirt on
like
it.
like literally putting dirt on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And moving on. And I think like in some instances I think that is appropriate, but
Yeah.
I don't think that it's always. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess for me, I think that gentle parenting is realistic.
I think our definition is like stay calm, don't fly off the handle,
Yeah.
be able to be respectful. I do think that children are allowed to be respected.
Yes.
And you do not have to be coming at them and saying things and yelling or whatever. And I'm not really a spanker either. And I don't know, like, I mean, I feel like that's a convert. Like a lot of people have different feelings on that.
For sure.
I would say with my kids, it's not necessarily needed. I think one of them has been spanked once their whole life.
Mine have been spanked. In fact, I'm guilty of the spatula.
Oh yeah.
But mine kind of got smart with me about the spatula. I've told you that, haven't I?
Yeah.
Where
I think you joked, you were like, your name's on the spatula.
I was not joking.
Yeah.
I was mad. I was mad because
Yeah.
well, what it was, they weren't getting along and all this kind of stuff. My youngest was much smaller, and then my oldest obviously 3 years apart. And I walked in and she was abusing my
Yeah.
youngest, and and I said, you need to keep your hand, and so I popped her, with the spatula, and I turned around and she was doing it again, and I was like, let me tell you something. This thing right here, this is gonna have your name on it. And her little innocent face looked at me and she said, I don't see my name on it.
Oh.
So I marched my butt into
like,
the
those are
kitchen.
fighting words.
Yeah. And I marched myself in the kitchen, went in the junk drawer, got a marker out, and I put on one side her name and the other side her sister's name. And I was like, you see it now?
Yeah.
And I think that is not a gentle parenting moment for me.
But I would say too, like everybody has these moments where they're like emotionally charged and you fly off the handle and then you're like, ooh, that wasn't cute.
But I think that is more of my definition of gentle parenting, where when I mess up, I do not mind going to my daughter and sitting her down and saying, hey, I was very upset about what you said, whatever. But my reaction was not my favorite.
Yeah.
And can we talk about this? I'm sorry that
and I think
flew off.
Yeah, you and I both do that of like, you know what? Like mommy had a moment. And just because you did something wrong doesn't mean that mommy's reaction was okay to what you did.
Yeah.
But it still stands what you did, not okay.
Not okay. But
just
I
like,
need to work on.
Yeah, just like how I reacted to that moment was not okay.
Yeah.
And we're both in the wrong. And like, let's come together and figure out how to make sure we're not here again.
Yeah, like, and I mean,
and so for that, like collaborative for sure.
Yeah, well, and also being respectful of like, I disrespected you, and there was, I don't know how to share this, but there's times where my kids they're kind of like like me. They don't like loud noises, you know? And so when I get loud, I can tell, like, they kind of do this like shrivel away. And I've told them before, hey, if I'm upset, I want you, and it's scary to you because that's never my intention, you know, because that there is nothing that's going to slap me out of an emotional reaction faster than my child saying, you're scaring me right now. Or this, like, this is really scary for me. Or this is not okay. Or like, you know, something like that. That's going to de-escalate me immediately. And so I always tell them, like, if you feel that way, because that's an emotion you should never feel towards me, is fear, you know, physical fear, emotional fear. You know, if you feel scared at all, I want you to say, hey, you know, and also too, that kind of gives them the power to, you know, for something that is, I feel like that emotion is very detrimental for children. And so that kind of gives them the power to say, hey, I don't like this, not just to me, but to other people.
And be like, hey, this is actually not a situation I'm in.
Right.
And or I'm not going to be staying in.
And so I feel like that kind of goes into gentle parenting.
Well, then just like emotional regulation as well. Like you're not always going to get it right. But the point is, own it when you were wrong.
Yeah. Well, the other point, so teaching and not punishing. I do feel that whenever I do have to dole out a punishment, grounding, you know, something like that, before I even talk about it really with them, I'll turn around and I'll say, why is this happening? Why are you grounded? Why is this the way that it is? To make sure that they understand, like, I know that they understand. Because if they turn around, they tell me I don't know, well, the punishment doesn't, it's moot. It's a moot point because they have no idea.
We kind of do something similar where we teach more cause and effect. Like every action has a chain reaction. Every word you say, once it's out, it's not going back in. So cause and effect, punishments is not so much a punishment, but a consequence or a effect of the cause.
Right.
And so just leading in that way and just being like, okay, hey, maybe I do need to be mindful of what I do say and think about, because my intentions may start off good, but it may end up in a different way than I even wanted. So being really mindful with your words, being really mindful with your actions, and just teaching that, like, hey, you are going to mess up. But own it. And then like trail back, find where it got lost, find where the misdirect or the miscommunication or the misunderstanding, or sometimes like you did bad all by yourself and you made the conscious choice to do bad.
Right.
These are the consequences from that choice.
For sure.
Love you, mean it.
Yeah.
But we're going to sit in the uncomfortable because that was the decision we made.
Yeah. I mean, because it's how it is in the real world. I mean, we're not always going to be here. We're not always going to be the ones that are dishing out the consequences.
Yeah. And the world is a lot meaner than us.
For sure. I mean, my kids don't think so, but
then you're doing your job.
Yeah. So, okay. So what gentle parenting isn't,
and this is for us, like from our perspective, we don't think gentle parenting falls into line of like free-range children.
Yeah, letting them do whatever they want. That's craziness. Are you insane?
It's insane to me when children talk back to their parents in public,
or even the ones that are in public that are just like off the chain. Because what I would do as a parent,
and it's one thing like if that parent is not okay in helping with other like 3 children,
for sure.
And where you're like, there's a difference of like off the chain and like deliberate ignorance.
Yeah, or like or they just don't care. Like, you know, they don't have the emotional intelligence of, hey, your offspring is disrupting the entire environment right now. Like, do your job. Like, what are you doing? You know,
which is definitely different than like a beat down mom.
Oh yeah, for
who has just nothing left and they're all running all over her.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then the other is avoiding discipline altogether. That's terrible.
I think that it is a real thing for some parents to not want to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I do understand that aspect of like, you know, I just want my kids to know love and all this stuff. And it's just, that's almost hurting them more.
Oh yeah.
Because they're not always going to know love. And then they're now going to have to handle that emotion without you there to guide, teach, and direct.
Yeah. They're going to have a hell of a time out in public. Like they're going to have a hell of a time at a job. They're going to have a hell of a time, you know, just making friends and, you know, being in relationships with people. Like that's not setting them up for success at all, in my opinion. Now, and again, I mean, I guess we should have, prefaced this, like all of this is our opinion.
Yeah.
We're not sitting here on a throne judging parents that feel differently from us.
Yeah.
This is just our beliefs as parents, as mothers, the children that are allowed to come to our house.
Yeah. I do wish I was able to be like calm 24/7. I would say I'm calm 95% of my parenting.
Oh, I would agree with that for sure. I would
And
absolutely agree
but
with
I
that.
also don't really have to be because I have I don't know the word, the other shoe, like, and my husband of like, I don't really have to be the bad guy because like if I'm to the point of I need a bad guy, all I have to be is like, all right, I'm gonna go talk to daddy, and then everybody straightens up.
Yeah.
But then it is different too. He's gone a lot. He has stuff coming up soon where he's gonna be gone, and then it's just
Mhm.
like in order to survive, like sometimes that changes. That 95% might go to 80
Yeah.
where, there's a full 3 days I'm doing nothing but screaming.
Yeah.
But then, the point of it is like recognize that within yourself, pull yourself back and be like, okay, I'm an
Yeah.
adult.
I'm gonna
I can take a deep breath. Maybe they need to go to grandma's for a couple days
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. If you can, find a friend to babysit for 2 hours so you can just take a nap or recenter yourself or go to the gym or whatever you need to
Yeah.
do. But like it's unrealistic to think you're gonna nail it
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And then the guilt from that expectation of you
Oh,
being
yeah.
on and being able to nail it all the time and then not, you don't need that in your life.
Well, I mean, and that because you already have guilt
Yeah.
anyway of knowing that you're not. It's not having guilt for knowing that you're not perfect all the time, but I mean, some people
You
feel
have
that
mom
way.
guilt. Yeah.
You don't set yourself up for failure,
Yeah.
essentially.
Hmm.
Okay, so what makes gentle parenting hard when you're exhausted, stressed, or overwhelmed? I mean, that is all day long. That's me all day long.
My oldest and I are dealing with some push buttons right now. She knows where mine are.
Yeah.
And she just looks at them, makes eye contact with me, and pushes it.
Ooh, that's
And
wrong.
I literally said to her, I was like, we're the same size. We will go fight in the front yard. Like, you're not a baby anymore. I'm eye level with you.
Yeah. I thankfully with my kids, and I say thankfully, man, I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing, but again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm a perfect parent. I have the mom look.
Yeah,
Like
for
I just
sure.
have to.
My voice, I feel like, does change. Like when I'm serious, then it's a full like, oh, okay, mom's not playing anymore.
Yeah.
But like, I don't have to use that voice very often because my husband's here to do it. For
Yeah,
me.
right. And but I'll say too, even when I was married, it was equal. I think that it was equally lenient. That he was
Mhm.
more lenient on things that I wasn't, and vice versa.
And
And
I
so
would
that
just
kind
say
of
there's
worked.
some things, I mean, obviously, gentle parenting has a lot to do with is your spouse or your partner or, whoever you're on your parenting journey with able to have the same parenting style with you as well. And that changes too. If we were in a situation where my husband was like spanking is 100% the only way we're disciplining our kids,
Yeah.
that's a conversation of like teaching emotional intelligence, teaching things, other things with your partner.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, for me at least, is like I'm trying to be the example
Mm-hmm.
for how I want my kids to be when they're older humans.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't have to talk to people yelling and screaming. We can have conversations and be respectful. And I feel like we're the example of how they're supposed to go out into the world
And have relationships.
And how we
Yeah.
parent them is going to be how they parent or don't parent their children.
Or
Or
themselves.
themselves. Yeah.
I think at least for you, we've talked about this. I don't so much have a parent in my head because it was just kind of touch and go there for a while in my
Yeah.
childhood. But I've heard it with other people. They'll hear their parent
Yeah.
in their head,
Yeah.
and sometimes, depending on what it is, that can be very debilitating because it's something that's maybe not healthy. And so it's
Yeah.
being mindful of that too. Like I never want to be, I mean, I'm sure that there's plenty of times that, when my kids grow up and they decide they want to go to therapy, like I'm sure that I'm going to be in the hot seat for sure. But I never want to be in the hot seat for being a voice that held them back or made it to where that they can't have good, healthy relationships with other
Yeah.
people. Like I never want it to be that way.
And I mean, there are situations like, we jokingly said at the beginning, gentle parenting is for gentle kids. Some people have legitimate children with, behavioral problems, emotional
sure.
problems that is way beyond gentle parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And those situations, like it's your first time in it. You have no idea. You don't know what's going on with your kids. So like, it's totally normal for you to react in ways initially from
Mhm.
frustration and anger and a much more emotional place of where, hey, I wasn't a gentle parent for the first 3 years of my kid's life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's okay. Forgive yourself for that because you only were working on the information you had.
Yeah.
So now that you have more information, like what is that going to look like for you? What is your journey going to look like?
Yeah. Well, so what is that? And I don't really have this because again, I don't have family
Yeah.
around and everything. But so what does it look like for you when it comes to like family members or, people that don't understand the way that
I
you parent or like
Yeah.
your expectations?
I actually don't think I parent very similar to my mom at all, or
Mm.
my dad, actually. But I don't think that is a reflection of them anyway, because obviously I turned out fine and fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
But I think I just decided when I became pregnant who I was going to be in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really take away from anything. Like, I for sure have like heard myself as my mom in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like as parenting, like when I first found out I was pregnant, I, am reading books and reading things, and I'm like, this is how I'm going to parent my kid. And some of those things like obviously went away the first week
Mm-hmm.
because they're not realistic.
Yeah.
But then other of them, like I really was like, oh, I like this version of me as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And that evolves weekly, monthly. Like sometimes I'll meet other moms at our kids' school and I'm like, I love how she handled that situation. I would have not handled it that way. And so like finding sort of mom role models, I guess, too.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken pieces of their parenting skills or whatever. Cause I mean, like when you're on the soccer fields, when you're at sporting events, you're seeing, the younger kids lose their minds because they're having to wait for the older kids. So you're seeing a lot of parenting
Yeah.
every day. And so some of those were like moms, I'm like, oh, I really loved how she handled that. Or I really loved how she explained it. Or, one of the things that a mom at school does is like, I think we both do this too, is like we're very real with our kids. Like if
Yeah.
our kids ask us a question, we're going to tell you the dumbed down version as much as possible, but we're not
Mm-hmm.
going to lie to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the way I heard her explain something to her kid, that was not an easy conversation. And she had to do it standing next to other parents, other kids.
Right.
And was still able to like explain something like that's a pretty sensitive topic
Mm-hmm.
very easily and very calmly and very nicely. And I was like, I want that skill. How do I grab that skill for her? And so some of that is just me being like picking and choosing from people in my life who I felt like emulate what I want to be as a mother.
See, I think that it's really interesting because I am the exact opposite.
I feel like though you are people, like people in for you is still scary.
Yeah,
And
but yes and no. Yes, well, definitely yes. But the way that I look at it, I've learned a lot from other parents on what not to do.
Yeah.
But I think that my personality, especially with parenting, because I've never done it before.
Yeah.
I've only had an 11-year-old once
Yeah.
in my life, and even so, even my 8-year-olds, I've never had an 8-year-old like that. Her sister
I
definitely
love
was
her.
not her. And so I'm having to learn that. But and maybe it is my emotional intelligence journey that I've had, where I am open to how does this make me feel?
Mhm.
How and also looking back on the themes of my childhood of what would have worked better for me,
Mhm.
but then also taking in consideration their personalities.
Yeah.
And thank God that they're finally at an age where their personalities are coming out, where they can understand a whole lot more
And like
instead of
reason,
yeah, and have reason and somewhat accountability. I mean, we
do
can
our
only hope.
best.
But okay, so finding balance, how we try gentle parenting without losing our minds. I mean, I think that we've said it.
Well, and I think too, if you try something and it doesn't work, maybe try it one more time, but then like throw it out. Like don't
Yeah.
stick to things that aren't working for you,
Yeah. And there's no
including gentle parenting.
I'm still confused on how it's 2025 and they don't come out with manuals yet. Why
Well, we
is
just discussed all of our children are different.
somebody needs to still they should come out with a
Oh,
manual.
like she comes out
Yeah,
and this is how
there's a
to love
book,
me,
like,
how to
I'll
get
have
me to
it-
listen, how,
Yeah, like second
Yeah.
birthing
how
of
to
a manual.
make me remember jackets and
For
lunchboxes.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? It's
Yeah.
2025. I don't see the problem.
I hear you. I hear
Okay,
you.
so when firm boundaries are necessary, that's hard. Okay, so this tends to be hard for me as a single parent. Some days I'm just tired, and it's like, and it's
That's
the
not just a
same.
single parent thing, I don't think.
Yeah,
That's
but
just a tired.
but I can't tap out. Like I
I
can't.
feel like too, like sometimes I feel like the consistency of things being only on me
Mm-hmm,
is a real struggle.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't put a lot on him because I'm like, he's busy, he's got army, he's got all this stuff. But it's
Yeah.
like, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I'm in school, I'm working full time, I'm
Yeah.
coming home, cooking dinner, I'm taking our oldest to work with me and homeschooling her.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, I'm putting that on me too. So it's like, we're in your position, there isn't anyone else.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to put some of that on the girls a little bit more than I would have to as
Yeah.
far as responsibilities.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
It is. It's really tough. Now, I will say that baptism by fire for sure. sure. But it's one of those where when it comes to boundaries, I will set a boundary and, and
do you have an example? Because like I keep thinking like relationship boundaries or things like that of
well,
like for instance, like a boundary for us, hey, you're not going to talk back to me in that way. You're not going to talk in that
yeah,
tone.
I'm actually
You can
there right now.
absolutely be upset, but you cannot be mean.
Yeah.
Like those are boundaries for me. And we just reiterate them over and over and over.
Yeah. And then some days I'm tired. And it's and especially days where I'm like really, like we've talked about, like it's just been kind of hard here lately. When I'm hearing myself say something, well, and
for the
this is about
30th
me.
time. Yeah.
Like me, I don't like repeating myself. If I said it, I said it. And I shouldn't have to repeat myself kind of thing. Although that's a bit of the rigid part of me. And I'm with my kids, I'm a little bit more like lenient. But when I've said it 50 times in one day and they've only been home for like an hour or two from school, it's all I can do. And so then it's kind of a scrambling, like, okay, back to the board. What do I do? Kind of thing. And gentle parenting is not necessarily like, I don't think is necessarily the answer.
No, it's not the default in that moment either.
For sure. And
we had this, like I told you about this the other day, where like my oldest has started, we've changed her curriculum for homeschooling and she's online now. And I can see legitimately how long she's logged in, how anything. And she had an assignment she didn't finish. And she was like, Mom, I really want to do it tomorrow. I've done so much. And she had done a lot. And so I was like, yeah, absolutely. Next morning, she's like, yeah, Mom, I'm going to work on it. So she starts it. I leave the room, put up laundry or something like that, check down in the app. And it said she was in it for 3 seconds, which means she opened it. And the second I left that room, she closed it. And I walked back in there. I was like, hey, we need to get started on this. You told me you were going to do it. I know you're not a liar. So let's not make it a habit and get back to work. 30 seconds later, I checked the app because now I'm like, quit playing with me.
Right. Yeah.
She logged back out again. And I was on what? On like God's green earth, do you think this is okay?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? And I had to like really like stay in my room for 5 more minutes because I was like, to my face. You looked me in the eyes. Yeah. To my face.
Yeah.
And so I had to be like, okay, she doesn't learn by me screaming at her. She's not going to do it if I go in there and burn down the world.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, we have to do this in a different way. And I'm like, go back in there. I'm like, congratulations. You've upgraded to the version where Mom now has to sit next to you because you can't listen to me. And I sat next to her and she just goes, aw. And I'm like, that's the consequence. The cause and effect, boo. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I gave you opportunity to do it on your own and you did not take it. And this is something that we are doing. So buckle up.
Okay. So I have one for you. And I don't know. Chime in at home if you know. So this was some years back with my youngest. I mean, she's got like, I love her strong will, just not
while you're raising her.
Not while I'm raising her. Like I want that for her, like when she's out in the world, just not in my house.
Yeah.
And so
she's a good time, y'all.
Yeah, she is. But it's a dance. She was doing this thing where she was taking snacks up to her room. Full disclosure here, folks. My kitchen's always open.
Yeah.
Pantry's always open.
Yeah, there's no not a time limit.
Like there's no, I didn't want it upstairs because I know them. Like they're not
now we have ants.
Down. Yeah, now we have ants, like, all the things. And then we were also dealing with a white lying thing, because it was just kind of going hand in hand. No, I didn't do this. And she was like strategically hiding things. And I said, look, you keep doing this. I said, I'm going to take everything out of your room and you're just going to have your dresser and your clothes in the closet. And like, that's going to be it. Okay. So kept going, kept finding snacks. And I was like, I don't have snacks. I don't know where that came from, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. She was at grandparents' house one weekend. I legit put all of her toys, everything in trash bags, put it in the attic. She came home to the cleanest room she's ever had and she had no toys, no nothing. Did not faze her.
I know.
At all. In fact, within an hour
she was like, this is the best thing, Mom.
Yeah. Within an hour or two, she was taking stuff from her sister's room and bringing it in, like her sister's toys into her. And I was like, absolutely not.
She's got to go into something with like problem solving.
Yeah. Problem solve this. So if anybody has any,
I remember she did this with clothes too. You told her to go put up her clothes and she like put them all back in the laundry.
Yeah, no, she still does that. She still does that. And then she gets mad at me because I'm like, here, you have the most in your basket. Because what I do is I wash their clothes.
They have to put them up.
They have to put them up. I put them in a basket and, they know to put them upstairs. But not only that, she doesn't hang them up. She just shoves them in like whatever drawer she can find. And then when it's time to get ready for school. And, I don't have any clothes. I know I just bought you a whole haul of clothes. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you don't have clothes? And what it is that she has shoved them. And then the weeks that I have them, I consistently have, like, I'm drowning in laundry.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what is actually
Bless
clean and
her.
what's dirty. Gentle parenting does not apply to there. I mean, no other parenting applies to that either. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if
I mean,
anybody
as
has
far as
any.
the like shoving things in drawers, like
Mhm.
mine do that. Like I'll give them all their clothes. They'll be folded. They will not leave the top of the dresser.
Yeah, it drives me nuts
Yeah.
because then they can't
She's like, I'm just
find.
gonna pull them. I'm just gonna wear them. And it's like, well, now you have clothes behind the dresser.
Yeah.
Now you have clothes all wrinkly because you just piled more things on top of them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, my oldest just gets sneaky and steals my socks, which that's just still a hot topic. I mean, but she does. I will put socks in that basket. Know that she's got 700 pairs of socks in her basket. She will still come to my room and steal my socks.
yours have love in
Drives me
them.
nuts. No, they don't. Hate and discourse. It sucks. Okay, so how to repair things when you don't handle a situation the way you wanted to. I mean, I think that we kind of touched.
Be afraid to apologize. If you
Yeah.
did something, you're expecting them to apologize.
Exactly. Like they're
Show the
sponges.
example.
They're learning how the right way to do things.
Mhm.
If you ignore it, how great of a partner are they going to be,
Yeah.
with just friends and, other relationships? Like, how great of a person are they going to be in those situations? Like, they're going to be a nightmare.
For sure.
Well, and then that goes with the power of apologizing to your kids. So,
Mhm.
can gentle parenting really work, or is it just a goal we aim for? I think, yeah.
I think you can incorporate a lot into your parenting that is gentle and
Yeah.
just like
It's
every
respect.
situation in life has different things that are required of it.
Yeah. It's
Apply
just
that to your
respectful.
parenting. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I like this quote that you put in here. You don't have to be perfect, just intentional. Like
yeah.
if you're intentional, if your mindset's intentional in this, like it will change a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
And you'll be shocked how easy it comes.
For sure.
But then with that, forgive yourself when you slip back into patterns that you didn't love about yourself.
Yeah. And admit them. It's okay to admit them, because they're trying on all types of hats with their
Mhm.
personality,
Yeah.
what their likes, dislikes.
And sometimes ego gets in the way of
For
parenting,
sure.
especially when the mini version of you is trying to square up.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're like, I need to be right in this because I'm the grown up. And it's like, well, what are you going to lose in the process?
Yeah.
And I'm not encouraging children to walk all over their parents because I'm not
No.
for that.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a middle ground.
There's a way to go about it for sure. So,
Yeah, that's all we got.
that's all we got on this. So, if you guys have any stories or, tips, tricks, experiences for sure. So, like and subscribe, find us on social media, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.